Today on Live Daily News, the San Angelo School Board will officially say goodbye to retiring Superintendent Dr. Carl Dethloff. Also, a Sonora man was arrested for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and a drug dealer was busted in Colorado City with enough fentanyl to kill everyone in the Metroplex. I'm Yantis Green, and this is Live. We'll get to the news in a minute, but first, business in 2024 will require a reliable, fast internet connection. And let me let you in on a little secret. When San Angelo Live launched the exclusive live streaming video content initiative, we shopped around for the fastest, most reliable fiber network in San Angelo and found Conterra Networks. We are connected to the internet via Conterra's 1 gig up and 1 gig down fiber internet. Conterra Networks provides access to a business-oriented network. That means to bring you this live stream, we aren't competing with your kids' downloads of those 3 gig large game downloads for a Nintendo Switch. We require serious internet to broadcast live to 5 major platforms like YouTube and Facebook. If you're in business and you're serious like us, so that means you need a serious internet connection. Call Todd Smith at Conterra Networks to get serious about your internet at 325-716-8340. That's ConterraNetworks.com. Or you can call Conterra, the Conterra guy on his cell phone for a no-obligation quote. Todd Smith, 325-716-8340. In the news, the San Angelo ISD Board of Trustees will say goodbye to Superintendent Dr. Carl Dethloff this evening. Dethloff announced his retirement earlier this year. After a nationwide search, the district hired Dr. Christopher Moran from the White House ISD back in November. Dr. Moran will begin his duties January 1st. The San Angelo School Board meets in regular session at 5:45 this evening. And Tom Green County Sheriff's deputies arrested 40-year-old Abel Rodriguez of Sonora on Sunday on a warrant out of Sutton County for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Rodriguez was booked into jail at 12:35 p.m. Sunday and released a few hours later after posting $10,000 bond. And a shooting suspect is dead after sparking a shootout with police on 6th Street in Austin yesterday. According to the Austin Police Department, the armed suspect went into a bar on 6th Street and police were dispatched to the area. Video shows the suspect pulling a gun on the cops and firing on them. Police returned fire, killing the gunman at the scene. That video is extremely graphic. You can see it, though, at your discretion on sanangelolive.com. And a suspected drug dealer was busted in Colorado City with enough fentanyl to kill everyone in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. According to the Texas Department of Public Safety, the suspect was caught with over 44 pounds of meth and 12 pounds of fentanyl. Read more on that story at sanangelolive.com as well. Weather-wise, West Texans can expect mild and seasonal weather for the first half of this final week before Christmas. Look for afternoon highs in the 60s, overnight lows in the 40s and 50s. There is no rain in the forecast for the first half of the week. That all changes Thursday with an upper-level disturbance bringing rain chances to the area. There's a 30% chance of rain Thursday and Friday and a 40% chance of rain on Saturday. Christmas Eve looks dry at the moment, as does Christmas Day. Barring any major changes in the forecast, San Angelo, unfortunately, will not have a white Christmas this year. And stay with us. Joe Hyde sits down to talk with Justin DeLoach about what they need to talk about, followed by sports. We'll be right back after this word from the Bass Bunch.
You'll love this all-new 24 Ford Mustang with a 10-speed select shift transmission. That's fancy tech talk for it's a really cool car.
Right now, you can get a brand new 2024 Ford Mustang for just $33,999.
That's a great price for a sports car.
Only at Jim.
Boy, it's a lot of reading today. So
we are recording 3, 2.
The 2023 Texas high school football season wrapped up over the weekend in Arlington at AT&T Stadium. There were some great matchups that came down to the wire, and others who dominated their respective state title matchups to garner their schools' state championships. We hosted a special edition of Cover 1 last Friday to talk about the first 6 games in the championships, so check out our YouTube and Facebook page for highlights and detailed analysis over the first 2 days. Here are the results for the last 2 days on the games over the weekend. On Friday, Anna beat Chapel Hill for the 4A Division I title 26-0. Gilmer downed Belleville 28-26 in the 4A Division II game. And Alito's 51-8 win over Smithson Valley wrapped up the games on Friday. On Saturday, the big schools finally clashed as Port Neches Grove won 20-17 over South Oak Cliff in dramatic fashion in the 5A Division II matchup. Duncanville and DeSoto both snagged blowout wins against Galena Park North Shore and Humble Summer Creek for the 6A titles. The 2023 football season may be over, but be on the lookout for our Cover 1 postseason awards. These awards are where we recognize the top players around the Concho Valley this football season. And of course, for more sports, be sure to tune in every day at sanangelolive.com/sports.
If you have been injured, call J. Chandler Law. You want an honest partner who will tell it to you straight. A proven advocate right here in town. Together, let's hold them accountable.
For over 20 years, you have helped Carpet Tech make a real difference at Christmas with your donations of new unwrapped toys for local children in need. 'Tis the season once more. Buy one room of carpet cleaning, get one free. Give your toy donation to our technician when he comes to clean, and you get a free room of carpet cleaning. All donations support Children's Advocacy Center. Give a gift and get a gift of free carpet cleaning from Carpet Tech. Will you help us make a local child's Christmas a little brighter this year?
Well, welcome back. I'm Joe Hyde. I'm the publisher of San Angelo Live. I'm joined today with Mr. Justin Deloach, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Big Hona, over there at the Children's Advocacy Center. And Justin, welcome on the show.
Well, thank you, Joe, for having me. Glad to be with you.
For those who don't know what you do, or what the Children's Advocacy Center does, kind of explain your mission.
Sure. So for over 32 years, we've been here in San Angelo and the Concho Valley.
That's since like 1991.
1991, yes, sir. And we saved our first
Storm.
child. I know, right there in the early 90s, because child abuse apparently wasn't a thing in the 80s, but we're sitting here learning so much more now. But over 32 years, we have been in our community to ensure every child has a safe and nurturing home. That is our mission that we carry out every single day through our 4 programs. Mm-hmm. And we serve, like I said, not only just San Angelo, but the Concho Valley as a whole.
So you have a whole bunch of programs there that
Yes.
kind of explain how those programs touch the community.
Sure. So our 4 main programs, our first one is our Hope House, which was our original program. This is the forensic interview side of the CAC. So any alleged child abuse, especially physical or sexual child abuse, those forensic interviews of that child take place at the CAC.
And that's where the police officer will go and gather the evidence and decide
Yes.
whether or not to charge. Basically doing the child interviews, which are
That's
very
correct.
difficult.
Yes, and so it's, I don't know if you've ever tried to talk to a child about a serious incident
No.
like this, but it's very, very challenging at times. And we're really grateful, Joe, because with our new campus, we have law enforcement on site with us, along with Child Protective
Do
Services.
you work with both the sheriff and the San Angelo
Yes,
Police
sir. So San
Department?
Angelo Police Department and Tom Green County Sheriff, and then all the counties that we service directly, we work with their law enforcement as well.
It seems like there's a lot of cases of this.
Yes.
It's like a continuous thing in our news coverage.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the felonies, a good percentage of the felonies are that. And I would say that a lot of it, I'm just looking at the news as an observer because I have to report on it a lot. And it seems like between that and domestic violence, and we usually pull off on domestic violence. We don't report those.
Sure.
But there's a lot of that going on. And what will happen on the back end of some of these domestic violence things we don't report on, you'll have one of these child cases come up.
Yes. Well, and what a lot of people don't understand is abuse, whether it is through domestic violence, whether it's through child crime witness, whatever the case may be. If a child experiences a traumatic experience that then has the lasting effects, that can lead to many different things. And really some of the stats now, Joe, is 1 in 6 kids are sexually abused by their 18th birthday.
So it's about 20%.
Right. So if you look at throughout the state of Texas, over 64,000 kids received services from a CAC throughout the state in 2023. And so if you break that down, so in the 5,800 individuals we're serving in San Angelo, you probably know a child sexual abuse victim and you just don't realize it because, like you're saying, there's a lot of open investigations that a lot of times we can't share those with the public, but it is happening, and it's happening here in San Angelo. And sometimes it is familial, where it's somebody in their family, but then there are times that it is true perpetrators that are working to get these kids, and it's just something we all have to be vigilant
Especially
about.
with social media and the way the internet is today, and everyone's online. It's easy, that kind of thing. So
very much so.
All right. So in addition to the Hope House, you have
So we have our court-appointed special advocate, which is our CASA program. This is the one that most people are familiar with. It's CASA volunteers within our community that serve the best interest of a child. Now, this is a child whose home is determined by a court of law. So what that means is the child has been removed from their permanent living. And so now the courts are trying to figure out what is the best option for that child.
So an advocacy can take the place of an attorney or a civilian.
That is correct.
I have to, I don't know how you call it, say a non-attorney or an attorney.
Yes, it's like an ad litem is appointed to the child. So then that interest of the child is always at the forefront.
That's one of those fancy words.
Yes,
yes.
So basically saying not a lawyer, not the judge, but somebody that has the court's authority to speak on behalf of the child.
Right.
Yes,
And that's important in a lot of these cases when I always tell my guys, every female you see on the booking report is a potential CPS case. And it's very expensive for all law enforcement across the state, but you see it all the time. And in fact, the Dallas Morning News had a news article about the number of women has increased in the penitentiary.
Right.
And since 2009 or so over the last 14 years, it's been a growing trend. So, and that's, like I said, you don't just have that one person who's the perpetrator. You might have 2, 3, 4 kids who are attached to that case.
Right. Well, a lot of times, Joe, when we get into these investigations, we find out that there's multiple victims. And so it may not be just a sibling group. It could be another total different family that had an experience with this perpetrator. And so when you get into the legality of that, a lawyer may now have to be researching 5 or 6 cases, which is now taking up more time. And then also you still have to have the best interest of the child in the forefront. And so that's where the CAC comes in, is because of our nonprofit status, we can serve these children with no price tag necessarily connected to it. There is a price tag, and it's a very expensive price tag because child abuse is not cheap. But when we have these CASA advocates that are going into the courts, and then they're the ones that are meeting the kids, they're going to wherever they're at, whether they're in San Angelo, Houston, Austin, because that's another thing a lot of folks don't realize is a lot of the foster kids do not get to stay in San Angelo.
Right.
So when they're pulled from their home because of the child abuse, not only are they now having to meet a new family, but they're going to a new school, new friends, and then again there's travel added to that, and then they're stationed or they're put in a place where they could be there for 2 weeks or they could be there for 2 months.
One of the things that I've learned over the years, and this is anecdotal, is there's not a whole lot of foster homes available.
No, sir, there's not, unfortunately.
So how do you deal with that? When someone can't get a foster home, they have to stay. Do you have a location for them?
Well, so we don't have a local location in San Angelo. Now, there's some centers across the state that we can utilize, and the Department of Family and Protective Services manages that aspect of it. But foster homes are in short supply, and if anybody is looking to try to serve a child, that is one of the ways that is the biggest way to serve, because you can open your home. Because a lot of times these cases, they may go for 6 to 8 months to 2 years, and if these kids are having to bounce around because one placement is now full and they have to go to another one.
And can you imagine, most of us had probably fairly normal childhoods, right?
Right.
So can you imagine bouncing around from place to place, not knowing if you're loved?
Exactly.
Well,
and then not knowing where your next stop's going to be, because about the time you maybe feel like you're in a normal spot again,
you're gonna move.
It's going to be uprooted, and then you still at this whole time the child is facing the court system. So, and we all know there's challenges within that, whether that be directly with their perpetrator, with their family, or other victims. And so it is one of those areas that when someone's wanting to serve the CAC, CASA is the way to go, because it takes about 10 to 11 hours a month to dedicate to a child that's in the court system.
Okay.
And so you get get to actually work hands-on with the child. You
Now,
get to advocate
and you
for
don't have to
them.
be an attorney.
That's correct. No, you can be the main requirements are being 21 years of age and be able to pass a background check, because we do all of the training at the CAC, and then you are sworn in by a court judge that then makes you an ad litem to the court.
As a kind of a guess, okay? Are they mostly girls, mostly boys? Is it kind of a
Right
mix?
now it's actually more probably about a 65 to 35 type percentage. So we have more women volunteers than we do men.
Okay.
We need more men. So if anybody out there has the heart
Well,
to
what
serve
about
a child.
what about we call them patients, or the clients,
children that we serve? Yes, sir.
How is that about 50-50?
So actually, the children we serve, it fluctuates so often because right now we are seeing more female victims that are in the court system, but a lot of times, again, that can change tomorrow, and it can be totally different by the end of the month, so to say. But our percentages right now, we're looking about, or not percentages, but our count is about 248 kids that are currently being served by our CASA here. Roughly about 87 volunteers serving those children, and so those numbers continue to grow.
You're probably going to have 2, maybe 3 children assigned to you as a CASA volunteer.
It can be a possibility, yes, sir. So you can serve one child, and if it's a very severe case, we try to limit the volunteers' involvement, because we know with one case they could be really loaded down with all the details. But if it's also one that we feel like can be managed, there's sometimes CASA volunteers who have up to 3 to 4 cases.
So what do you do? These guys that are these volunteers, do they get any kind of psychological help? I mean,
there's a lot of teamwork and a lot of self-care that we try to promote with our volunteers. And that's one of the other joys about having the campus we do now, Joe, is because we have a space for those volunteers to collaborate together. And we do have different things, different trainings, not only through our local CAC and CASA, but through Texas CASA, which is our state funder that helps us manage a lot of that trauma that a CASA volunteer may understand and get to comprehend, because these kids rely on them. And so they have to learn all about their case. They learn about all the dark details of what this child's gone through. And then you have to figure out the light to be in that child's life. And so there are times that we want to make sure our self-care of our volunteers is taken. And there's a lot of times that we'll tell a volunteer, take a couple of months off, let's get you rejuvenated and get you back, because it's not an easy conversation to have, and especially when you're advocating for over a year or 2 for a child.
Right. All right. So you have the Hope House, the CASA. What else? What else?
So we also have our family and youth services. So this is our only public element of the CAC.
Okay.
So this is where we support families that have growing children from 0 to 17. So that can be through education in the home, development of the child so they're ready for school, or if there's a teenager that's borderline about to be in the JJC system, we want to make sure that we can help
juvie,
support them.
right?
Yeah,
That's the
juvie
juvenile
system.
jail. So basically that's kind of like a counselor.
Yes.
So
yes.
is it I guess trained counselor?
That's correct.
I don't know what training they go through. But I've seen this before, where you have a single mom who is assigned a counselor, doesn't cost a single mom anything, and they help them with, let's say the kid's having trouble, a behavioral problem at school or something like that, maybe referred by the school district counselor or something like that, and they'll counsel the mom and give her ideas and I guess hold her accountable too.
It's a support system, because there is accountability on both sides. And our parent educators are the ones that go into the homes and so work directly with the families. But then our parent mentors are those that work directly with the parents of the child, because a lot of times it may just be a tweak in their daily schedule or making sure their child's doing what they're supposed to. But then there are times that we're seeing a lot of issues that need to be addressed, and a lot of times the parents have to be held accountable, and that's all for the best interest of the child. And so that's where we do see a lot of great response from our community, as these families that sign up. Parent Mentor program is only about a 6 to 8 month program that we can actually get everything right on track. And then our Parents as Teachers, which is the education program, it's about a 2-year program.
Is that the 4th program?
So they're both in the same program. Number 3, yes.
Number 3.
And then 4.
4. We're on to 4 now.
So 4 is our therapy department. So we actually have on-site therapy now for all child abuse
victims. When I get
victims.
depressed, I can go in there.
Well, unfortunately not you, Joe.
Because I'm not a child? Is that what the deal is?
We're reserving our therapy services for child abuse victims. But, if they ever have an opening, I'll see what I can do for you, because we have some of the best, because we are working with trauma victims.
Right.
And so because of the mental health crisis that we've seen not only in our community but throughout the state and the nation, we knew that we needed to have on-site therapy. So when a child comes to the CAC and they've experienced a traumatic experience, they're not put on a waiting list for 90 days to be able to see someone. They literally walk down the hall, and one of our licensed professional counselors is there to help them.
I've watched your career over the years, and the things I've seen you do, when you joined the Children's Advocacy Center, what, 2018?
2018, yes, sir.
It seemed like you found your place.
I did.
And you've done a fantastic job, because you went from raising money, you were development,
Yes.
to being the CEO. Tell me about the budget and how it's grown over the years, and what pieces are paid for by the state and that kind of thing.
Sure. So we are partially a grant-funded organization. So what that means is we do receive state funding for three of our main programs, and that funding is also regulated by all of the things that we have to do to serve a child.
Right.
And so, as you know, as I always tell people, that's the type of money that we have to do it a certain way, or we don't have that money.
Right.
But it's very important because we're a part of the legislative system.
So your Hope House and the CASA program are both
Yes.
largely
state funded, and then our family and youth services programs are also state funded. But then when it comes to the bottom line, we are going to offer our services no matter what. And so there are times that there's programs that we bring that are not state funded,
Right.
and that's where we rely on our community. And so when I started at the CAC, we were right under $1 million budget. That was it. And now we're right under a $3 million budget, because our services have increased. Now during that time, Joe, we've brought on that therapy department, and so we do have licensed professional counselors, and so there were some salaries that added to that, but then also just the service need. And that's why we went from being the CAC of Tom Green County and only serving San Angelo and Tom Green County to Greater West Texas, because we're serving 5 counties directly through Hope House, 10 counties through CASA, and then any child within about a 90-mile radius of San Angelo can receive a service through the CAC, and that's something that we weren't able to do before.
I think it's important also to understand that our court system, our district court system reaches into Reynolds County,
Yes,
into
it does.
Concho County,
Yes.
And down in Schleicher County, up to Coke County.
Coke County,
I got to
yes.
get them all right. Sterling County, and Mertzen, Arion County also.
Yes, I think all the way through.
So because of that, a lot of your CPS cases could come through the Tom Green County justice system. So it
exactly
makes
right.
sense
Yes.
that you would be more of a regional
Right.
entity than just a county only.
Well, and we saw the need, and that was the biggest response during that time of our growth. Is we were anticipating it, in the early 2010s after conversation of state reform, and then the state reform happened in 2016, where we could now serve more children.
Right.
So prior to 2016, we could only serve one child, and it was usually for a forensic interview. We couldn't refer them. We couldn't send them to another program.
Really?
And that was just because of the way the legislature had written the law. But then in 2016, they changed that to where the CAC now had an equal seat at the table, where we were helping kind of coordinate our multidisciplinary teams of law enforcement and CPS and even the district attorney's office. And so we are all sitting down talking about every allegation of child abuse in our community, and then we're advocating, we're responding. And that's what the CAC does, is we help these organizations support their role, because we're not law enforcement, we're not CPS, but what we do is ensure that child is advocated for every step of the way.
Right. Now, if you watch San Angelo Live, you watch the news, you would think there's a child sex abuse case every day, and it is pretty bad. Just anecdotally, what are the trends that you're seeing? And also, in addition to the trends here in the local area, in your region, I mean, I know you go to conferences and stuff like that. What is it like in other places that are similar to San Angelo?
Sure. So San Angelo is blessed right now because we are a community that does not have some of the spikes that have been seen, especially post-COVID. When society got back to, I guess, what we're calling normal after the shutdown, there was a lot of communities in the state that saw not only an uptick in just sexual child abuse, but child trafficking. And so we started to see a little bit of that due to the border and due to our closeness of the border, but no cases necessarily here. But now, Joe, we've got 1 in 6 kids that are sexually abused by their 18th birthday.
That's in your region.
That's here in the state of Texas, right in our region, right in our backyard. So out of the state of Texas, we served 64,000 kids thus far in 2023. And then what we're looking at now is, when you look at our numbers, we're starting to see a little bit of a trend just with how social media is working and how kids have access to some of these perpetrators. And so we're rearranging our educational materials now to be more educational to parents, that yes, when you hand your child a cell phone, you're pretty much giving them a front row seat to any perpetrator to try to contact them through all of the social media platforms. And then also AI and all of the things that it's doing. So now we've got, older individuals impersonating younger individuals and trying to get these kids to respond to that. And so these are all things that are starting to happen so quickly, and we're working to respond. So then when that does start hitting us, just like we've been seeing some of the other abuse, sexual or physical abuse over the years, we'll have a response to that for people to be responding and being a positive for these kids and not a negative.
So the answer to my question is pretty much the same, except
Yes.
we didn't have the post-COVID spikes.
Right. We didn't have the post-COVID spikes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what into the future? You went from 1 million to, you basically, since you've been there, you've grown 3 times.
Yes.
So are you looking to double it again, or what?
That's a great question. So we're always going to be available to the need. So if the need does increase, especially with child abuse, we will be there. But what our goal is over the next year is we're going to stabilize our services and to see if there's a way that we can respond to the kids that we are serving, and then also open our doors to kids that maybe child abuse didn't happen, but they were so close to it that it could have affected them in some way. But then also we've got to watch those trends, because if the need for mental health still increases, we will increase our therapy services to ensure that children in the Concho Valley are receiving those needed services. Because I do know there are children who go without therapy, Joe, and that is one of the biggest downfalls to a child as they go into adulthood, is because if we don't process this trauma now and help them overcome it, then they're just going to bottle it up, and then when they become an adult, and we all know how life is, there's going to be other problems that come in their lives. So we're really focused on our therapy element of the CAC, but then also
And
how we're
the
responding.
therapy is not the state-funded part.
That's correct.
That's. I mean, you're basically you see a problem that the state legislature isn't funding yet.
That's
I mean,
correct.
and that's mental illness.
Yes.
I mean, we talk about that all the time, and,
Yes.
and so there's a limited amount of funds there.
Yeah, and the thing is what we're also seeing is we've got great partners in the community, West Texas Counseling and Guidance and MHMR, that can serve some of the population, but our population does get very specific when it comes to child abuse, and also an open case of child abuse, because a lot of times a therapist would then have to share what's said in that session because it advocates for the child in their court or in the court case, and so there's just so many barriers that we have to follow and manage to ensure that the therapist feels like they're still making a difference, but also that child is still being advocated for. So I don't see us doubling necessarily over the next 2 years, but what I do see us doing is really addressing the needs as it's coming to our doors, and then supporting our partners in what their needs are as well, because it is a joint effort, and we've got to stick together to serve the children of the Concho Valley.
All right, so basically, you need raise what, $1.5 million, $2 million a year?
Usually, yes. That's
What do you do to raise that money?
Yes.
And what kind of response do you have? I mean, do you have like a big banquet? I mean, kind of explain what you do.
We have 2 main fundraisers that we do a year at the CAC, and because of the generosity of the sponsors and the donors that attend those fundraisers, those are the main 2 that we have to host. It's our Champagne and Diamonds, which comes up every Valentine's Day, February 14th. No matter the day of the week, we're always having Champagne and Diamonds at the Cactus Hotel. We bring in a child abuse survivor to tell their story, and so that connects it. It is a dinner, yes, sir. It's an evening.
Do you have to
dinner.
wear a tux?
You do. It's a formal occasion,
Okay.
so got to dress up. Now, I do go with West Texas style, so you can just be in a tie.
You still
or
wear
what have
boots.
you. Right, and your jeans and your boots, but black tie type for the guys and a formal for the ladies. But it is a great evening because this is where we do bring a child abuse survivor to San Angelo to tell their story. And a lot of these are in their 40s and 50s, and CACs were not around when their child abuse occurred. So they can give you a clear picture of why having a CAC in our community really does make an impact
So
on
these
these
are
kids.
probably the exceptions to the rules that made it through
Yes.
into adulthood and became productive citizens,
Yes.
which is what we need.
That's exactly
because
right.
if we have a problem with a child and he goes into adulthood and he still has a problem,
Yep.
that's when you start getting more felonies.
Yes, that's
You
a
know,
right.
more-
Well,
more
they
crime.
start responding to their trauma of the past in a way that an adult would respond to trauma, and that's not always a beneficial thing. And usually, yes,
I love the
there's
way
a
you
lot
put
of things.
that.
Yeah, because we know how it can happen, and especially for
Right.
those that don't deal. So, but Champagne and Diamonds is always on February 14th, and then we have our golf tournament, which is held every May out at the San Angelo Country Club. We have a great time. This last year, we introduced a new fundraiser of a 50-50 fundraiser, where half of the pot went to a winner, and it was close to $10,000. $10,000. So about $5,000 went back to a respectful an individual that was not only respecting what the CAC was doing, but wanted to help us raise some money. So I loved that. Now it wasn't through gift cards because we're a nonprofit. We can't just hand cash out there,
Right.
but it was a great thing. So there's different ways. But another way, Joe, is we have Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month that comes up every April. So we do a ton of different events. We have a fundraiser that we do through that, just supporting child abuse advocacy programs, and that's always a great response. And then we just finished up Christmas for Kids just this last week for kids in the Concho Valley. So we are very blessed by community support, foundations, philanthropy, and we're very blessed by what San Angelo provides
Now,
us.
does all the? I mean, I'm just as curious because I'm going to take your CEO hat off for a second.
Can do that, yes.
Because you've been a prolific fundraiser your entire professional career.
Yes, sir.
And you understand how to do that. Does like organizations like CAC, you go through like area foundation, or is it so like the San Angelo Gives thing in May?
Yes,
you can donate.
We participate in that, and then we also, like I said, we do a lot of matching gifts. So if a local foundation gives us a gift, we also work with local donors and philanthropists that will help us match those gifts. So we're amplifying their dollars, and it's leaving a bigger legacy for those individuals. And also, what I'm very enriched by, Joe, is a lot of people get the investment of what they're giving into, because we are building the future through our children, and if they don't have this platform to help heal through what they didn't ask for, then we're really not doing our community any good service for the future. And so a lot of our donors get that. So we have a lot of recurring donors that come back to the CAC. We have a great board of directors that helps us build those relationships.
How many people on the board?
We currently have 24 with board and advisory, because we also have the ex officios that serve on the representation of the partner side of law enforcement and CPS. But it's a great organization, and when the community responds, they understand what they're responding to, and that's my job too. Is I want to make sure they understand the legacy that they're building, not just for one child, but for many children to come.
So this is the Children's Advocacy Center, and this is Justin Deloach, the CEO. I'm very proud of you, sir.
Well, thank you,
You've done
Joe.
a
I
really good
appreciate
job
it.
with that. Very worthwhile organization. The next big deal is Valentine's Day.
Yes, Valentine's Day. All the information goes out right after the first of the year, so be watching, and we'll make sure San Angelo Live has it as well. So
Well, thank you for coming on our show today, Justin.
you bet, Joe. Thank you for your time.
And now back to you guys in the studio.
You were very
When it comes to unique pieces you can't find anywhere else, Kano's Diamonds and Coins is your one-stop shop. With over 24 years in the diamond and coin industry, Kano's Diamonds and Coins is West Texas's choice for diamonds, jewelry, coins, silver, and gold. Owner Bill Kano stands by his work and offers free consultations, including estate jewelry. Don't just trust anyone with your valuables. Come see the staff at Kano's at 1016 West Beauregard in San Angelo.
And that's our show for today. Be sure and join us again tomorrow. Until then, for the team here at San Angelo Live, I'm Yantis Green.